In our mutual friends group chat, I posted a photo of me and my new girlfriend, making it official. The chat instantly exploded, filled with congratulations and gossip. Only Rachel's older brother, who also happens to be my best friend, sent me a private message with a single question mark. You blocked Rachel. I gave a self-mocking smile. What else could I do? Keep her just to watch her announce her relationship with someone else? Even if she's not tired of me, I'm tired of myself. He replied with a string of ellipses, then said nothing more. A bit of bitterness sat in my chest, but mostly, I felt relief. 10 years, finally. I don't have to keep chasing her shadow anymore. At midnight, my doorbell rang. I thought it was takeout. When I opened the door, I froze. Rachel was standing there, wearing the white dress I always loved on her, her eyes red. She lifted 2 concert tickets in her trembling hand, her voice shaking. Ezekiel, I got the tickets. You promised to go with me. Who is she? Chapter 1. I looked at Rachel, at her tear-reddened eyes and the 2 crumpled concert tickets trembling in her hand. Inside, I felt nothing. Not even sadness, just irony. 10 years. I'd asked her out for 10 years. She turned me down for 10 years. Now that I've finally given up, she's the one standing at my door with tickets in her hand, demanding to know why I didn't wait for her. Keep the tickets, I said flatly, or maybe take your brother with you. Rachel stared at me in disbelief, her eyes wide as tears rolled down her cheeks in fat, heavy drops. Ezekiel, what do you mean? We had a deal. That was between you and your ease, not me. I pulled the corner of my lips into a faint, cold smile. My name is Ezekiel, and I'm Fiona's boyfriend. Her body swayed as if my words had physically hit her, and the tickets almost slipped from her hands. No, that's impossible. You said you'd always wait for me. People change. I didn't want to argue anymore. While she stared at me, shocked, hurt, desperate, I shut the door without hesitation. Bang. The sound cut off all her cries and accusations. The world was silent again. Then came the frantic pounding on the door, one blow after another, echoing with despair. Ezekiel, open the door. Explain yourself. Ezekiel, you bastard. You can't just. I couldn't be bothered. I turned back to the living room, picked up my phone. The screen lit up, a photo of me and Fiona. She was smiling like sunshine, and for the first time in years, I had a genuine smile too. The knot in my heart caused by Oscar instantly melted away in warmth. A week ago, downstairs at the company building, I'd just finished a long, exhausting meeting when a figure stopped me. Fiona, our new designer, a bright, free-spirited girl like a gust of fresh wind. She held out a cup of iced Americano to me. Ezekiel, I've been observing you for a while. She was direct, her eyes open and sincere. I think you're great. If you're single, can you give me a chance to chase you? For a moment, I froze. I looked into her clear eyes, no pretense, no calculation, just honest, brave admiration. That light, I'd waited 10 years for it, yet never once saw it in Rachel. For 10 years, every hint I gave was met with indifference or vague excuses. I was tired of guessing. So I took the coffee and nodded. Okay, no hesitation. Outside, the pounding on the door continued, mixed with Rachel's broken sobs. I frowned, pulled out my noise-canceling headphones, and put them on. The world fell completely silent. My phone buzzed, a message from Fiona. Are you asleep? Don't stay up too late. You've got work tomorrow. A cute "good night" sticker followed. I texted back, good night. Peace filled my chest, soft and quiet. As for Rachel outside the door, what did that have to do with me anymore? She's the one who pushed me away, with her own hands. Chapter 2. The next morning, I met Fiona at the cafe downstairs from our office. She was dressed in a crisp, professional outfit, focused on her laptop as she edited a design draft. Sunlight poured through the window, wrapping her in a soft glow. She looked radiant. I walked over and set a breakfast in front of her. Good morning. Fiona looked up, her eyes curving into crescent moons when she saw me. Morning. How did you know I skipped breakfast? I guessed. I pulled out the chair across from her and sat down. She peeked inside the bag. It was her favorite sandwich and oatmeal latte from that little cafe she loved. Wow. How did you know I like this? She asked, surprised and delighted. If you pay attention, you notice things. I looked at her meaningfully. A faint blush crept up Fiona's cheeks. She lowered her head, took a bite of the sandwich, and smiled, a sweet curve forming at her lips. That's when an uninvited guest appeared. Rachel. She wore a tracksuit, her hair tied in a high ponytail. Looking like she'd just finished a morning run, she walked straight to our table, holding a small bag, milk and bread, my old go-to breakfast combo. Ezekiel, what a coincidence. She forced a smile, but her swollen eyes betrayed the sleepless night behind them. I didn't even bother looking up. Not a coincidence. I'm waiting for my girlfriend. Rachel's smile froze. She glanced at Fiona, hostility flashing in her eyes. So this is your new girlfriend? Fiona looked up, smiling politely. Hi, I'm Fiona. Rachel ignored her, keeping her gaze locked on me as she held out the bag. I brought you breakfast. It's your favorite. I turned slightly, avoiding her hand without hesitation. No thanks, I've already eaten. Right on cue, Fiona lifted her sandwich toward me, her tone teasing and warm. Try mine, it's really good. I took a big bite, then reached for her latte, taking a sip right in front of Rachel. Our movements were intimate, natural, and effortless. Rachel's face went pale. The breakfast in her hand hovered awkwardly in midair, too embarrassed to give, too painful to take back. Her hands trembled. Ezekiel, you used to only drink milk, she whispered hoarsely. People change, so do their tastes. I wiped the corner of my mouth and looked at Fiona with quiet affection. Now, I only like sweet things. Fiona's smile brightened like the sun. She stood and slipped her arm through mine. Come on, we'll be late. I nodded, wrapping an arm around her waist as we turned to leave. From start to finish, I didn't give Rachel another glance. Ezekiel. Her voice cracked behind me, sharp, raw, almost hysterical. Why are you doing this to me? We had 10 years together. Doesn't that mean anything compared to the few days you've known her? I stopped, but didn't turn around. Rachel, let's get something straight. My voice was cold, emotionless. That wasn't our 10 years. That was my 10 years chasing you. And now, I've stopped. It's that simple. You. And one more thing, stop showing up like this. It's pathetic. With that, I tightened my arm around Fiona and walked into the company building without looking back. Behind me, I could feel her burning gaze, the kind that could almost set my back on fire. Inside the elevator, Fiona finally let go of my arm. She looked at me, not with anger, but with quiet concern. Are you okay? I shook my head lightly and smiled. Better than ever. After 10 long years, I finally realized, letting someone go could feel this easy. The elevator doors slid shut, cutting off everything outside. I looked at our reflection in the mirror, Fiona and I, standing side by side, and for the first time, it felt right. Chapter 3. That weekend, Fiona and I had plans to play basketball together. It was the same court I used to frequent, the one Rachel always hated. She'd complain about the sun being too harsh, the sweat too messy, saying sports made people look undignified. But Fiona was different. She loved the sun, loved moving, loved life itself. Every inch of her radiated energy. We wore matching sports outfits, chasing each other across the court, laughter echoing between us. I hadn't felt this light in years. During halftime, I sat on the sideline sipping water. Fiona stood beside me, gently wiping the sweat from my forehead with a towel. Her touch was soft, careful, as if she were afraid to disturb something precious. I caught her hand and pulled her into my arms. Fiona, thank you. She blinked in surprise before breaking into a shy smile. What for? Thank you for showing up. Her cheeks turned red, and she gave me a playful punch. So cheesy. And right on cue, Rachel appeared. She was in a brand new basketball outfit, tags still dangling from the hem. Clutching a basketball, she pretended to accidentally pass by. When she saw us, she put on an exaggerated look of surprise. Ezekiel, Miss Fiona, you're here too. I didn't bother to call out her act. Fiona, ever composed, simply stepped back from my embrace and smiled politely. Yes, what a coincidence. Rachel's eyes flicked over our matching outfits, her gaze dimming instantly. She stepped forward, just like she'd done countless times before, and handed me a bottle of water. Thirsty? Here. Before I could respond, Fiona pulled out a sports drink from her own bag. She twisted the cap open, offering it to me with a mischievous grin. Drink this, electrolytes. Didn't you say you were going to crush me on the court today? I laughed, took the bottle, and drank deeply. Rachel froze, her hand still hanging awkwardly in midair. Her face flushed and then went pale. Fiona pretended not to notice. She took out a bar of chocolate, unwrapped it, and popped a piece toward my lips. Here, more energy. I spoke with the chocolate melting in my mouth, my words muffled. You have some too. Then, in full view of Rachel, I leaned down and kissed Fiona, sharing the half-melted chocolate with her. Fiona's face flared crimson. She pushed weakly against my chest but didn't move away. A few whistles and cheers came from nearby players. Rachel stood rooted to the spot, her face as white as paper. The bottle slipped from her hand, hitting the ground with a sharp thud. Water splashed everywhere, like her pride, shattered and scattered. Her voice trembled as she glared at us. Ezekiel, do you have to do this? Do you have to humiliate me by doing things like that right in front of me? I finally released Fiona and turned toward her, my tone icy. Rachel, drop the victim act. First, what I do with my girlfriend is my business. Second, you're the one who followed us here. I didn't invite you. And third, and most importantly, who do you think you are that I could even humiliate you? Each word hit like a blade, cutting deep. Rachel stood frozen, speechless. Her eyes glistened with tears she refused to shed. Fiona slipped her arm through mine and whispered, Let's go. I'm hungry. How about that Japanese place you love? That restaurant, the one I'd tried to take Rachel to so many times, only for her to refuse, saying she didn't like raw food. Now, it was Fiona who suggested it herself. Warmth stirred in my chest. I squeezed her hand. Sure, whatever you say. I wrapped an arm around her waist as we walked away, leaving Rachel behind, the image of finality. Behind us came the sharp sound of a basketball slamming against the ground, followed by her muffled sobs. I didn't look back. The old me might have felt pity, but now, all I felt was disgust. How could someone be so selfish, and so blind, at the same time? Chapter 4. Oscar, Rachel's older brother, and my childhood friend, arranged a gathering. He claimed it was a welcome party for Fiona and me. I knew better. He had something else in mind. Sure enough, the moment I stepped into the private room, Rachel was already there. She'd clearly dressed to impress, a light lavender dress, delicate makeup, hair styled perfectly. Sitting quietly in the corner, she looked fragile, pitiful, and heartbreakingly staged. Fiona, on the other hand, wore a simple white dress, no makeup, no effort to outshine anyone, yet she glowed effortlessly. The moment she entered, she greeted everyone warmly, chatting and laughing with ease. My eyes never left her. Rachel, however, stayed silent the entire time. Her expression darkened more by the minute. The glass in her hand trembled under her tightening grip, and her gaze, sharp, poisonous, flicked between me and Fiona over and over again. I knew she was waiting for an opportunity to strike, and she didn't disappoint. When it came time for toasts, Rachel stood up, swaying slightly with a glass of red wine in hand. Ezekiel, Miss Fiona, I'd like to make a toast to you too. Her voice quivered, soft and tearful, as if she were the victim of some great tragedy. I frowned, just about to say something, when she suddenly stumbled. The entire glass of red wine went flying, straight toward Fiona's white dress. In an instant, my reflexes kicked in. I pulled Fiona behind me. Most of the scorching wine splashed across my arm and part of my back. The crisp white of my shirt turned a deep, ugly red. Ah! Fiona gasped, immediately checking my arm in panic. The whole room fell silent. No one dared to move or even breathe. Rachel froze, clearly not expecting me to shield Fiona with my own body. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Ezekiel. I didn't mean to. Her voice cracked as tears welled in her eyes. That helpless, pitiful look, once upon a time, it would have made me soft. Now, it just made me sick. Rachel, I said, my voice cold and low, what the hell do you think you're doing? Every word was sharp, cutting through the air. My arm burned where the wine had scalded me, but I was far more concerned about Fiona. She tugged lightly at my sleeve. When I turned to her, she'd already calmed down. No anger, no embarrassment, just quiet grace. It's fine, she said gently. I'll go to the restroom and clean up a bit. She turned and walked away, giving me the space to handle the mess she knew wasn't hers to fix. The difference between them couldn't have been clearer. I took a deep breath, suppressing the rage boiling inside me, and turned back to Rachel, still crying, still trying to play the innocent. No need to apologize. I grabbed a few napkins from the table, wiped the red stains off my arm, and tossed the crumpled paper at her feet. This is the first time, I said slowly, clearly, and the last. The room stayed dead silent, but every person heard me loud and clear. If there's ever a next time, don't expect me to show mercy, not even for your brother's sake. Oscar's expression twisted awkwardly. He tried to defuse the tension. Ezekiel, Rachel didn't mean. One look from me, and he shut his mouth. Without another word, I turned and left the room to find Fiona. Rachel stayed frozen in place, surrounded by eyes, some pitying, some disdainful, some amused. I knew then, after tonight, no one in our circle would ever think there was still a chance between me and her. Good, clean break. In the restroom, I found Fiona dabbing at the faint wine stains on her skirt with tissues. I walked up behind her and wrapped my arms around her waist. I'm sorry you had to go through that. She turned, gently touching the red patch on my arm, her brows furrowing with concern. Does it hurt? Should we go to the hospital? It doesn't hurt, I said, holding her hand. As long as you're okay. She looked at me, then smiled suddenly, bright and warm. Ezekiel, you looked so cool just now. I blinked in surprise, then chuckled. Yeah, stepping in to protect the woman I love, it really did feel good. Chapter 5. After that disastrous dinner, Rachel disappeared for a few days. I thought she'd finally accepted reality, that she was ready to let go. I was wrong. She was just preparing her next move. Fiona and I had planned a movie date at a newly opened private theater. I'd wanted to try it for a while, quiet, cozy, perfectly private. Fiona picked the film, a sweet romantic comedy. Inside the dark screening room, it was just the two of us. The flickering light from the screen danced across her face, highlighting her soft profile. I couldn't resist leaning over to kiss her cheek. She didn't pull away. Instead, She turned her head and deepened the kiss. The air around us grew warm, natural, unhurried, inevitable. On the screen, the movie reached its finale, the couple kissing under a starry sky. The end appeared in glowing letters. The lights came back on, gentle but bright. I was about to take Fiona's hand and leave when I looked up, and froze. Standing at the door was a familiar figure, Rachel. Her face was as pale as paper, her whole body trembling. Her eyes were fixed on our still intertwined hands. Ezekiel. Her voice scraped out of her throat, dry, broken, full of disbelief. How could you do this with her? She pointed at us, her voice rising into a hysterical pitch. I frowned, instinctively pulling Fiona behind me. I'm being affectionate with my girlfriend, I said coldly. What does that have to do with you? Or wait, my tone sharpened. Is stalking us your new hobby now? I'm not stalking you, she screamed. I just happened to be watching a movie here too. What a pathetic lie. Her breakdown, her accusation, unlocked something deep in my memory. A year ago, my birthday, I'd bought a cake, a gift, and rehearsed a surprise a dozen times in my head. She said she'd be at the art gallery that afternoon, so I planned to show up and confess to her there. But the surprise turned into heartbreak. At the gallery entrance, I saw her, with another man. He was tall, handsome, gently brushing away the strand of hair the wind had blown across her face. And she looked up at him, smiling shyly, sweetly. That moment cut through me like a blade. I hid behind a marble pillar, clutching the cake so tightly it nearly collapsed in my hands. I felt my heart turning to ice, inch by inch. Later, I tried asking her about him, casually. She avoided my eyes, brushing it off. Oh, that's just a distant cousin. He just got back from abroad. A cousin. Since when do cousins look at each other like that? Since when do cousins give each other limited edition perfume as gifts? That day, I deleted every draft of the confession I'd ever written on my phone. I gave up completely. Now, looking at Rachel, hysterical, self-righteous, pathetic, all I could feel was bitter amusement. What right did she have to accuse me? She was the one who ignored me, the one who blurred the line with someone else, and now she had the audacity to act like I was the one who'd betrayed her. I let out a short, humorless laugh, taking Fiona's hand. I brushed past her without a second glance. Rachel, I said evenly, I told you, stop showing up. Don't make me repeat myself. My voice wasn't loud, but it hit her like a hammer. She stumbled backward, leaning against the wall, tears spilling freely down her face. Ezekiel, please don't go, just listen. I can explain. I didn't stop walking, because a lie always needs 1,000 more to stay alive, and I was done listening. Outside, the sunlight was almost blinding. Fiona squeezed my hand gently. She didn't ask anything. She simply said, let's go home. I nodded. Yeah, home. To the place where she waited for me, the place that truly belonged to me. Not the world I'd chased for 10 long years, only to realize I was never allowed inside Rachel's world. Chapter 6. After that day, Rachel's harassment only got worse. Every night, my phone would buzz violently, again and again. I didn't even need to look to know it was her. I'd hang up, block the number. She'd call again from a new one. I'd block that too. Then she started using public phones. It was like she wouldn't stop until she drove me insane. That night, it was 2 a.m. again. The shrill ringtone pierced through my sleep. I groaned, grabbed the phone, ready to turn it off completely. Beside me, Fiona stirred awake. She rubbed her eyes and glanced at my screen. The number was unmarked, but painfully familiar. It's her, she asked softly. Yeah. My voice came out rough, heavy with exhaustion. Fiona studied my tired, bloodshot eyes for a few seconds. Then she reached out her hand. Let me answer it. Her voice was calm but firm, carrying a quiet authority I couldn't argue with. I hesitated. I didn't want her dragged into this mess, but when I met her steady, trusting gaze, I found myself handing her the phone anyway. She pressed accept, switched on speaker mode. Rachel's drunken sobs instantly filled the room. Ezekiel, you bastard, why won't you answer me? 10 years, Ezekiel, we've known each other 10 years. How can you just say you don't want me anymore? Please, come back. Okay, I was wrong. I know I was wrong. Her voice trembled, soaked in alcohol and self-pity. I felt a wave of irritation tightening in my chest, but Fiona remained perfectly composed. She waited patiently until Rachel's sobbing quieted a little, and then spoke. Miss Rachel, hello. This is Fiona. Her tone was cool, steady, like a splash of cold water, instantly dousing whatever flames Rachel still had. The other end went dead silent. I could almost picture Rachel's stunned expression. Fiona didn't give her a chance to recover. First, she said calmly, 10 years is a long time, but that doesn't make it a chain you can use to shackle Ezekiel. You're the one who wasted those years, not him. Second, Ezekiel is my boyfriend now. He's beside me, sleeping peacefully. I'd appreciate it if you stopped disturbing our private life in the middle of the night. Third, Every adult must take responsibility for their choices. You chose ambiguity and comfort, now you face the consequence of losing him. And lastly, if this harassment continues, I'll have no problem pursuing legal action. She ended the call before Rachel could respond, and with one swift tap, added the number to the blacklist. Smooth, efficient, dominant. I just sat there, staring at her in awe. When she was done, she turned to me and gave a small, reassuring smile. All done. Go back to sleep with me here. No one's going to bother you again. Then she lay down, curling up in my arms like a cat. Finding that perfect spot against my chest, I held her tightly, breathing in the fresh scent of her hair. All the irritation and restlessness that had been churning inside me melted away. For the first time in my life, I felt something I'd never truly known before, peace. So this is what it feels like to be protected. I pressed a quiet kiss to her forehead. Fiona, I whispered, I'm so lucky to have you. She murmured sleepily against my chest. Go to sleep, dummy. I smiled. And that night, I slept deeply, without a single dream. After that, Rachel never called again. I knew Fiona's words had crushed whatever last thread Rachel had been holding onto. Sometimes, to deal with someone pretending to be asleep, you don't wake them, you rip the blanket off. And Fiona, she was the one who ripped it off. Simple, direct, and brutally effective. Chapter 7. Oscar asked to meet me again. The place was a quiet bar we used to frequent, the one filled with too many old memories. He looked exhausted, dark circles under his eyes like bruises. As soon as I sat down, he poured me a glass of whiskey. Ezekiel, I'm sorry, he said. He downed his drink in one go. Rachel's not doing well lately. I came to apologize on her behalf, to you, and to Fiona. I stopped him right there. You don't need to apologize for her. I lifted my glass but didn't drink. You're my brother. But she's nothing to me now. Oscar gave a strained smile and refilled his glass. I know my sister wronged you. He looked at me, his eyes full of something between guilt and helplessness. Ezekiel, you know what she's like. She's always been insecure. Our parents fought all the time when we were kids. She grew up terrified of relationships falling apart. She was afraid that if things didn't work out between you two, she'd lose even your friendship. That's why so that gives her the right to take everything I gave her for granted. I cut him off, my tone sharp, to treat me like a backup plan while she flirts with other men. My laugh came out bitter. I'd heard this script before, too many times. She wasn't afraid, Oscar. She just didn't care enough. The words hit him hard. You've known me for years, I continued. Do you really think I'm the kind of guy who gives up easily when I love someone? Oscar fell silent. He knew the answer. I've always been the type who treats love like a vow, no games, no second chances. She didn't not know how to love, I said coldly. She just got used to my devotion, used to me waiting right where she left me, so she could go out, explore, and test her options without fear of losing me. She thought no matter how far she strayed, I'd still be there when she turned around. Oscar's face grew darker with every word. I didn't stop. Remember back in college, that basketball team captain who chased her for half a year? She strung him along, and when he finally moved on and found a girlfriend, she showed up crying, asking why he didn't wait for her. Or that client she met at work, the one who adored her. She took his gifts, let him flatter her, but behind his back, she complained to me about how annoying he was. Then, when he stopped trying, she moped for days. I looked him dead in the eyes. Your sister doesn't misunderstand love, Oscar. She understands it too well. She loves the control, the attention, the power, the way people orbit around her like planets around the sun. But this time, I said, draining my glass, she lost control. Oscar's face flushed red. Shame and anger warred in his expression, but he couldn't say a word, because everything I said was true. I set the empty glass down and stood. You should have told me this 10 years ago, told me to stop chasing her, or better yet, told your sister to stop playing games before it was too late. Now you're here, trying to make me feel sorry for her when I finally decided to move on. I looked down at him, voice calm but final. It's too late. I clapped him on the shoulder, softening my tone. Oscar, you'll always be my brother, but when I get married, you'd better be there as my best man. He froze, head snapping up in disbelief. Married, he repeated. Yeah, I nodded, and a genuine smile spread across my face. I'm going to propose to Fiona. His lips parted as if to speak, but no words came. Finally, he just dropped his gaze, shoulders sagging. I didn't wait for him to respond. I turned and walked out of the bar, the night air cool against my face. I had somewhere else to be, the jewelry store, where my ring had been waiting. The past had taken 10 years of my life, the future was finally mine, and I wasn't going to waste another second of it. Chapter 8. Fiona and I were at home, planning our first trip together. We were going to Switzerland, to see the snow-capped Alps and the crystal lakes. Fiona was sprawled on the floor, pen in hand, circling places on the map with bright excitement. Here, we have to go to Jungfrau, and here, Lake Lucerne. It's supposed to be gorgeous. I chuckled, ruffling her hair. Whatever you say. The air in the house was warm, peaceful, full of quiet happiness. Then my phone rang. It was Oscar. I frowned, instinctively reluctant to answer, but the call didn't stop. It kept ringing, over and over. Fiona looked up at me. Pick it up, she said softly. Maybe it's important. I sighed and swiped to answer. Oscar's voice burst through the speaker, hoarse, desperate, on the verge of breaking. Ezekiel, you have to come to the Central Hospital, now. My stomach tightened. I forced my tone to stay calm. What happened? It's Rachel, he choked out. She's dying. Ezekiel. She drank herself half to death, acute stomach perforation, massive bleeding. She's in the emergency room. His voice cracked completely. The doctor said her condition's critical, and she's not fighting. She doesn't want to live. She keeps calling your name. Please, Ezekiel, I'm begging you, just come say something to her. Give her a reason to hold on. For a second, the world went silent. Even after everything, 10 years of habit, 10 years of buried emotion, made my heart clench painfully. I found myself standing before I even realized it. Fiona, who had heard everything, went pale, but she reached for my hand, her palm warm and steady. She looked up at me, not accusing, not fearful, just calm. Her eyes grounded me. I drew a long, steady breath. Then I spoke into the phone. Am I a doctor? Oscar, if I show up, will that save her? What you need to do is get her the best medical team money can buy. If you can't afford it, I'll cover the cost, but I'm not coming. My voice was cold, too cold, even for me. Ezekiel, are you even human? Oscar shouted, rage and grief bleeding together. She's dying, and you're just going to leave her like this? My heart. I laughed, bitterly, hollowly. My heart died a long time ago. Oscar died the day your sister ignored it, stepped on it, and left it bleeding. The one I have now belongs to Fiona. I can't use it to warm someone who's already turned her back on me. I hung up. Silence fell, heavy and absolute. Fiona stood slowly and came up behind me, wrapping her arms around my waist. You did the right thing, she whispered. Her voice was soft, but filled with conviction. This isn't your fault. I took her hand in mine, but my chest still felt tight. No matter what I said, it was still a life. Still a girl I'd once loved for 10 years. Saying I wasn't worried would be a lie. My thoughts warred inside me, reason against guilt, heart against habit. If I went, it would be betrayal. Betrayal of Fiona's trust, and of my own resolve to move on. If I went, I'd be dragged right back into that same endless pit I'd spent years climbing out of. And yet, the thought of doing nothing while she might be dying, it gnawed at me. Fiona must have seen the conflict written all over my face. She stepped back, took my face gently in her hands, and made me look at her. Ezekiel, she said quietly, I know this hurts, but you have to understand, what you're feeling is sympathy, not love. You feel sorry for her because you're kind, but your love, your real love, belongs only to me. Go if you must, she continued, but whatever you decide, I'll trust you. There wasn't a trace of jealousy in her voice, only faith, calm, unwavering faith, and that faith burned away the last of my hesitation. I pulled her tightly into my arms, holding on as if anchoring myself to her warmth. How lucky I was, to have found someone like her. Someone who didn't chain me with emotion, but set me free through trust. I would not, and could not, betray that. Not for anyone. Chapter 9. In the end, I went to the hospital, with Fiona by my side. Not because I'd softened, not because of Oscar's desperate pleading, but because of what Fiona said to me before we left. She looked at me and said, go, say goodbye, not to her, but to your past. If you don't end it completely, it'll stay in your heart like a splinter, and one day, that splinter will come between us. I'll wait for you outside. Her words hit me harder than anything else. She didn't guilt me, didn't cry, didn't try to stop me. She just understood, completely. She was right. I needed closure, a clean break. When I arrived, Rachel was out of danger. She'd been moved from the emergency room to a regular ward. Oscar was sitting outside the door, his eyes bloodshot and hollow. When he saw me, his face lit up for a second, until he noticed Fiona standing beside me. Then his gaze dimmed again. She just fell asleep, he murmured, voice hoarse. I nodded and turned to Fiona. Wait for me here. She smiled faintly and sat down on a bench in the hallway. I pushed open the door and stepped inside. The sharp scent of disinfectant filled the room. Rachel lay on the bed, pale as paper, and IV dripping slowly into her arm. She looked fragile, almost translucent. At the sound of the door, her eyes fluttered open. When she saw me, light burst through the dullness in them, and tears followed immediately. Ezekiel, you came. Her voice was barely more than a whisper, broken and weak. I knew you still cared. I walked to the bedside, looking down at her from above. My face remained expressionless. You're mistaken, I said evenly. I came to tell you, this will be the last time we see each other. The light in her eyes shattered instantly. Panic flooded in to replace it. No, don't say that. She tried to sit up, but the motion tore at her stitches. She gasped, trembling from pain. Ezekiel, please listen to me. The man at the art gallery, he wasn't what you think. Her voice trembled with urgency, like she knew this was her final chance. He's my cousin, really my cousin. He studies psychology. I asked him to help me. I wanted to test you, to push myself, to push you. I didn't mean for it to go that far. I didn't think you'd misunderstand, or that you'd give up so easily. Her tears soaked the pillow as she poured out the truth from a year ago, a truth so absurd it was almost laughable. To test love by inflicting pain, what could be more selfish, more foolish than that? Ezekiel, I was wrong. She sobbed. I know I was wrong. I love you. I've always loved you. I was just too scared to admit it. She reached out with trembling hands, trying to grab my sleeve, desperate to hold on to me. Please forgive me. Okay, let's start over. Let's go back to how it used to be. Her voice cracked, her face a portrait of anguish and regret. And for just a fleeting second, something in me wavered. After all, this was the girl I'd chased for 10 years, the dream I'd built my youth around. For a heartbeat, emotion surged like a tide, threatening to drown me, but only for a heartbeat. Then clarity returned, sharp, steady, merciless. In my mind, I saw Fiona, her bright smile, her fearless honesty, her unwavering loyalty, her voice echoing in the dark, standing up for me when no one else did. Her faith in me, the kind that set me free, not chained me down. I drew my hand back from Rachel's grasp, slowly, firmly. Rachel, I said quietly, it's too late. My tone was calm, but absolute. When I kept walking toward you with hope, and you kept turning away, it became too late. When I spent my birthday standing in the cold for 2 hours, holding a cake you never saw, while you laughed with your cousin, it became too late. When you only realized you wanted me after I found someone else, it was already over. Her face went utterly white. I didn't stop. People have to pay for their fear and their selfishness, I said softly, and your price was me. I didn't look at her again. Behind me, I heard her broken sobs, her voice calling my name over and over, raw, shattered, desperate, but I didn't turn back. I stepped out into the hallway, and there she was, Fiona, waiting at the end of the corridor, standing quietly in the cold draft that swept through the hospital hall. When she saw me, she immediately ran over and pressed a warm cup of milk tea into my hands. It was still hot. She must have been holding it the whole time. At that moment, all the tension, all the pain and heaviness inside me just dissolved. I looked down at her, at the woman who stood beside me, not out of possession, but out of trust. I knew I'd made the right choice. I had finally, truly, said goodbye to my past. Chapter 10. After leaving the hospital, I didn't take Fiona straight home. Instead, I drove us to the hilltop where we'd had our very first date. Night had fallen. The wind was sharp and cold, but from up there, the whole city stretched out beneath us, countless lights flickering like constellations, merging with the stars above. Fiona was wrapped in my jacket, leaning quietly against my shoulder. She didn't ask what had happened in the hospital, but I told her anyway. I told her everything, every word Rachel had said, every emotion that had flickered through me, even that brief moment of hesitation I wasn't proud of, because Fiona deserved the truth. She listened in silence, her face unreadable, eyes soft but steady. When I finally finished, she turned to me and said gently, "It's normal to hesitate." Her tone was calm, warm. She was someone you loved for 10 years. If you felt nothing at all, that would make you cold-hearted, not strong. But in the end, you chose me, didn't you? Then she smiled, a radiant, unguarded smile that sparkled like starlight. "Ezekiel, I trust you." 4 simple words, but they cut through the last shadow of guilt lingering in my chest. That trust, so pure, so complete, moved me deeper than anything ever had. And at that moment, I realized the difference between them. Rachel's love had always been rooted in fear, fear of losing, fear of being hurt, fear of letting go. Fiona's love was freedom. It was trust without conditions, giving without expecting, faith without control. The difference was night and day. Without another word, I reached into my pocket and pulled out the small velvet box I'd been carrying for weeks. Fiona froze, eyes widening as she covered her mouth. Tears glimmered instantly in her lashes. "Fiona," I said, my voice trembling slightly. I dropped to one knee. "I don't want to live in the past anymore. My future. I only want it with you. I'm not perfect. I carry 10 years of scars and mistakes, but if you'll let me, I'll spend the rest of my life learning how to love you right, how to make you the happiest woman in the world. Will you marry me? Will you be my everything from this day on?" I opened the box. The diamond ring inside was simple, elegant, brilliant enough to catch the stars. Fiona's tears finally fell. She didn't speak at first, she just nodded, over and over, her shoulders shaking. "I will," she choked out at last, her voice trembling but sure. "I will." I stood and slid the ring onto her slender finger, then pulled her into my arms. We kissed beneath the glittering stars, the city lights burning beneath our feet, and I knew my life had truly begun anew. The shadow named Rachel was buried for good, laid to rest in the past where it belonged, and my future would always belong to the sunlight in my arms, Fiona. On the drive back down the mountain, I took a photo of Fiona's hand with the ring shining on it and sent it to Oscar. The caption read, "Get your red envelope and bestman suit ready." A few minutes later, he replied with a complicated emoji, then another message, "Got it. I'll tell her." I stared at the screen for a moment, then turned it off. Everything that needed to end had ended. Everything that mattered was just beginning. Chapter 11. I sent Oscar the photo of my proposal, Fiona's hand gleaming with the diamond ring. He didn't reply right away. I imagined he was wrestling with himself, torn between the brother he'd grown up with and the sister bound to him by blood. It took a long while before his message came through. "I'll tell her, Ezekiel. I wish you happiness." Then, in parentheses, "I'll have the bestman suit ready." I smiled. He'd made his choice. Later, Oscar told me what happened, in fragments. Through drunken words one night, that day, he walked into Rachel's hospital room with my message still open on his phone. Rachel had just finished her 4. She was sitting upright, staring blankly ahead when he handed her the phone. She looked at the picture, Fiona's hand, the dazzling diamond ring, and my caption, "Get your red envelope and bestman suit ready." Slowly, her eyes dimmed. The light drained from them until only emptiness remained. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. For once, she didn't beg. She just sat there in silence for a long, long time, before finally picking up her own phone. Oscar said she opened our chat, the one she'd pinned for 10 years, the one where she had never sent the first message. Her finger hovered over the red "Delete Contact" button for what felt like forever. Then, at last, she pressed it. After that, she lifted her head and said softly, "Brother, help me with the discharge papers. I want to go home." It was the first time she'd ever chosen to let go, and the first time she didn't use tears or weakness as weapons. I didn't know what she felt at that moment, whether it was despair or clarity, but it didn't matter anymore. When I received Oscar's message, I was standing beside Fiona at the bridal shop. She stepped out from the fitting room wearing a pure white gown, radiant, breathtaking, like an angel made of light. The last trace of guilt or heaviness tied to Rachel dissolved completely. The past was finally over. I turned off my phone, stepped forward, and wrapped my arms around Fiona from behind, resting my chin on her shoulder. "You're beautiful." Fiona blushed, looking at me through the mirror. "You like it?" "I love it." I kissed her softly on the cheek. "My bride is the most beautiful woman in the world." The wedding was set for a month later, a golden autumn day full of sunlight. Oscar arrived early in a crisp suit, standing by me as my bestman. As he adjusted my tie, he sighed, "You're one ruthless bastard, you know that." I smiled at my reflection. "Not ruthless," I said quietly, "just responsible, to myself, and to Fiona." Rachel didn't come, but she sent a beautifully wrapped gift and a thick red envelope through Oscar. I didn't open them. I handed them to the wedding planner. "Please donate this to charity," I said. There was no need to look back. When it came time for our vows, I looked into Fiona's tearful eyes and spoke the words I'd rehearsed for so long. "Thank you, Fiona. Thank you for walking toward me when I thought I'd be trapped in the dark forever. You taught me that love isn't about chasing or waiting in silence, it's about two people meeting halfway, and holding on with their hearts. I love you, and for the rest of my life, I'll spend every day proving it." Fiona was crying too hard to speak. We exchanged rings, sealing our promise with a kiss amid applause and laughter and sunlight. My friend smiled, genuinely happy for me. Oscar stood behind me, eyes glistening, and I knew I had chosen right. This wedding wasn't just the beginning of my future. It was the final farewell to 10 wasted years, and the grand opening to a brighter life ahead. Chapter 12. A year after the wedding, life with Fiona had settled into a gentle, blissful rhythm. Our home had become warm and alive, filled with the comforting scent of everyday life. Her favorite pillows were scattered on the sofa, and the balcony overflowed with the flowers she loved. In my study, there was now a design desk beside mine, her space, right next to me. On weekends, we'd go grocery shopping together. After dinner, we'd take evening walks hand in hand. Sometimes, we'd curl up on the couch, arguing passionately about the ending of a movie. All those small, ordinary moments, they were everything I'd ever wanted. Then one day, Fiona found out she was pregnant. The moment we saw the test results, I lost all composure. I lifted her into my arms and spun her around the living room like an idiot, laughing and crying at the same time. After that, I threw myself into dad mode, learning how to cook prenatal meals, studying baby care books, obsessing over vitamins and crib safety. Fiona teased me that I was the most anxious expectant father in the world. One quiet weekend afternoon, I was in the kitchen, wrestling clumsily with a recipe for chicken. Fiona leaned against the doorway, nibbling fruit and scrolling on her phone. Then she suddenly said, "Hey, look at this," and handed me her phone. It was a post from Oscar's social media. He'd shared 9 photos, all of Rachel, or rather, of her back. Rachel standing on the Tibetan plateau, in Xinjiang, by the sea, beneath a snow-capped mountain. She wasn't in the white dresses I'd once loved. She wore hiking gear now, boots, a windbreaker, a backpack. Even from behind, I could feel the difference. She looked free. There was peace in those photos, the kind that comes after a long storm. Oscar's caption was simple: "May you travel the world and find it worth living in." I stared at it for a moment, then quietly clicked like, and that was it. No sadness, no nostalgia, just a quiet, sincere wish that she would find her own kind of happiness. Fiona came up behind me, wrapping her arms around my waist, resting her chin on my shoulder. Her breath was warm against my skin. "What are you looking at?" she asked softly. I turned off the screen and faced her. I bent down and kissed her slightly rounded belly, then her forehead. "Nothing," I said with a smile. "Just our future." She laughed, her eyes glimmering, and placed a hand gently over her stomach. "Our future's right here," she said. Sunlight streamed through the window, golden and warm, wrapping us in its quiet embrace. I looked at her, at the woman who had become my home, my peace, my light, and felt the tiny heartbeat of life beneath my hand. In that moment, I knew the shadow I had chased for 10 long years was gone for good, dissolved into the wind, leaving no trace behind. What remained was real, warm, bright, and alive. The past was smoke. The woman before me, she was my heart, and at last, my story had found its perfect ending.